Back here on HQ Spotlight, and Sunday Night Football brings us Lions at Eagles, two division leaders, two Super Bowl hopefuls. Stars aplenty on both sides of the ball, both teams boasting great quarterback and running back play with Hurts and Saquon and Goff and Gibbs. So no surprise that these teams are two of the winningest in the NFL over the last two seasons. Both are 21-5 over that span, but the Eagles, of course, have that Lombardi, and the Lions are still looking for one. So let's welcome back our friends JP Acosta and Tyler Sullivan to talk about this matchup. Last week, the Eagles found a way once again, but also once again, we are talking about these offensive issues. So JP, how concerned are you with the current state of this Eagles offense?
I think they have enough talent to overcome some of their offensive issues, but at this point, I'm like, the vibe is sort of shaky right now. Things are not looking great, and again, it's because their run game has been sort of ineffective this season, or at least inconsistent. They haven't been able to get the consistency that they have, especially on early downs, and then Jalen Hurts has not been able to find answers over the middle of the field as often this season. He's not really a middle-of-the-field passer, but this season, he's near the bottom when it comes to rate of passes over the middle of the field, so now you're just trying to find answers outside of the hope and prayer balls to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, and that really has sort of dried up this season. So I'm a little more concerned, but I do think their talent is going to be enough to overcome it in a single game sample size once you get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I largely agree with JP there. It does feel like they're talented enough that we shouldn't even really be talking about this, but the vibes around this team are totally out of whack. And I almost even go away from the wide receiver spot. I look in the backfield there as well, because the bread and butter of the Eagles offense is to ground and pound and beat you on the ground. Specifically, Saquon Barkley took the league by storm last year, averaged 125 yards per game. This year, it's essentially been cut in half. And when you are leading the league in touches from a year ago, going into that next season, there was always a bit of that concern as the wear and tear start to drain a little bit, and I feel like we might have seen that here with Saquon Barkley. So as much as I'm concerned about the vibes, I'm also a little concerned about how Saquon's going to hold up here as we go down the stretch, because as you can see here, the yards per rush are dramatically increased. You don't think 5.8 and 3.9, 2 yards is a difference, but that really is a huge swing in terms of his production on a year-to-year basis.
I like the balance we get from you guys. We get the vibes talk, but then also the cold, hard football facts, because both of those things certainly matter. And on the other side of things, vibes are high. As Dan Campbell took over play calling versus the Commanders, the Lions, they put up a cool 40-plus points. So where do you notice the biggest change on offense, Tyler?
Yeah, I think deception was probably the most interesting change that we saw from the Detroit Lions, from the standpoint of a lot of motion, a lot of play action, more so than we saw at all prior to them this season. From weeks 1 through 9, they had around 53% in terms of motion. In week 10, it was 66%, a season high. In play action, about 15% of their offensive plays were play action. 27% in week 10, a season high. So to me, that's the clear distinction that you can see with Dan Campbell now taking things over. Now, it's easy when you have arguably the most deep and talented skill position players in the NFL. It can kind of lead you to do a bunch of different things that you want. But to me, the pre-snap motion, the play action, that was the most notable change.
For me, it honestly was Jameson Williams and getting him involved more. Jameson Williams matters so much to this offense because not only is he the fastest player on the team, but his threat of speed. If you have Jameson Williams involved, if you have to constantly worry about getting hit over the top of the head with a Jameson Williams explosive play, that opens up more lanes for Amon-Ra St. Brown. That opens up more opportunities for Sam Laporta in the middle of the field. That'll open up more of the run game because you have that constant threat of Jameson Williams on the field. I think they got him involved a lot more off of play action. They made it intentional to get Jameson Williams involved, and I think that's a really good trend for them moving forward because Jameson Williams matters a lot to this offense.
And it wasn't just points. You see there, season high in total yards with over 500 yards of offense. Speaking of offense, JP, you believe the offensive lines will be the key to this game. Why will they be such a big impact?
because both teams are built to win up front through the offensive line. If we're looking at Detroit, if we're looking at Detroit's offensive line versus Philadelphia's defensive line, Philly's been one of the best defensive lines this season across the NFL. They just added Jalen Phillips, and they have the ability to win with 4, but especially when Jalen Carter is healthy and playing. When Jalen Carter's playing, he is such a force multiplier on that side of the ball. So I think for either team to win, their offensive line has to set the tone early and really lean on the other side of the ball and keep their quarterbacks clean, because both these quarterbacks are very different quarterbacks under pressure.
And I'm looking at a guy that was making waves this week on social media, on streams. It's A.J. Brown. He is the X factor to me in this game, because he has kind of been the break glass in case of emergency type of option in this offense, for better or worse to his chagrin. I go back to that game against the Los Angeles Rams. Most of that production, arguably his most productive game of the season, came in the second half when they were down. Well, Emily, you just referenced it. This Detroit Lions offense is liable to go for 500 yards of total offense in a given game. You're going to need A.J. Brown in these settings if this turns into a shootout, if it turns into a track meet. So to me, he is the X factor. If he is unable to answer that call, or they have an inability to get him the football, if that game plan kind of plays out throughout this game, then the Philadelphia Eagles could be in some trouble.
What a luxury to have A.J. Brown as your break glass in case of emergency guy. I know there's a lot of teams in the league that would certainly sign up for that. Guys, it all comes down to this. Tyler, who wins this football game?
I still like the Detroit Lions here. I'll take the points. I'll take them on the money line. I think they pull off this upset because I just feel like they're the more complete team right now. It does feel like, yes, talent-wise, it's neck and neck. But in terms of who's more together, who's willing, who's able to go into hostile environments and pull out wins, it just feels like Dan Campbell will have his team together, cohesive, and ready to pull out the win here. I don't know what it's going to look like on the other side for Philadelphia.
I'm going with the Eagles here. I am a little worried about the health of the Lions offensive line, especially on the interior. Chris Mahogany has been out. You're going to be asking Graham Glasgow and Tate Ratledge to handle Jalen Carter, Moro Ojomo, and that entire group of monsters on the defensive line that the Eagles have. And then if the Lions decide to play man coverage against the Eagles, I think that's when Jalen Hurts is at his best, deciphering man blitzes and man coverage. So I think the Eagles pull this game out, but I think it's going to be a really low-scoring, real gritty type of game.
Eagles, the 2.5-point favorite at home. JP, Tyler, appreciate you breaking down Sunday Night Football for us. Detroit shines in prime time, an NFL best 13-2 record in prime time in the last 4 seasons, while the Eagles, they're on a bit of a hot streak, winning 3 straight after dropping 2 in a row.